Okay, look, I already know everything about Earth, and I don't want anything to do with it.
You're missing out on the joys of life, like pizza.
Tina, 22, is kind of reluctant. She doesn't really want to go to Earth, and she's worked with so many amazing mentors to find her spark. I think it's such an interesting conversation with this idea of understanding our purpose. So maybe for you, when do you feel most like you're walking in your passion?
I love to work, and I love to, I'm lucky that I work with my husband and with my dear friends. And so for me, like a really fantastic day would be working in a group, in a writer's room on something that's feeling really funny, and then coming home and, eating dinner and being with my family at the end of the day. So, feel like I'm sort of defined by a love of work in some ways.
Yeah. Phylicia, your character, she is the mom, and she's kind of that voice of reason that wants her son to have the full-time job. You can't eat your dreams for breakfast. I feel like you came from a very creative family, and your parents might have been ones that would have encouraged that within you. How do you combat naysayers? And then in turn, like, what does that look like for when you walked into your dreams?
I watched my mother. My mother is a poet. And I watched her continue with her work in a very disciplined way from the time I was very young, getting up every morning at 3:00, writing from 3 to 6, because that's when the house was quiet. And I also watched how no one in the neighborhood, no one in our community really understood the value of what she was doing. And yet she understood it. And it meant something to her. It meant a lot to her. So she continued. And in doing that, she showed us the way to live. That you find that means something to you. You develop yourself in that and then offer it back to people.
Angela, I think that it's an interesting conversation too, this idea that we're born with personalities, or as we navigate throughout the world, does that kind of shape us and those develop? I find it fascinating that I know you have twins. Was that something that immediately when they were born, I know they're different genders, but did they have distinct personalities, or were they similar and then you saw a change?
No, they had very, very distinct personalities immediately from the time, he was always type A and go at it. And I mean, if you were around and you had your toes out painted red, he was going for them. You could throw a blanket over his head and twirl him around. He loved that. And he would laugh. She did not go for that. She sat cross-legged as if I cannot walk. My legs are not strong enough. When I can stand, I will stand. Until then, I shall sit. Then she stood. And then she sat. I can stand, but I cannot walk. When I can walk, so she was always she had that cautious sort of thing, and he had the to the win. And I think it's perfect. I mean, of course, they ebb and flow a little out of it, depending on who they're dealing with or the situation. She can be very calm when we're running late to the airport. He might angst up, and go toward tears. But as you're about to call it and say, he's going to do it this way, she's going to do it that way, that's when people surprise you. And they do quite the opposite of what you expect. So.